Well, now joining us to analyze the U.S. proposal for Gaza as well as the potential agreements with Saudi Arabia is Gerald Steinberg of NGO Monitor. Gerald, thank you so much for joining us today. Always a pleasure to have you on. Now, obviously, Israel wants to expand the Abraham Accords, but the question now is, at what cost? Can Israel afford to have Saudi Arabia with F-35 jets?
There are lots of issues on the table right now. First of all, let's start by looking at the differences between the Trump administration and the Israeli interests. Trump and people around him, Steve Witkoff and others, they want to have big deals involving a lot of money, and the Saudis are the key to that. Saudis, Qataris, and others. They're talking about selling the jets. That's a lot of jobs, a lot of money. It's a lot of close relations with this very, very wealthy oil kingdom in Arabia, Saudi Arabia. So that's an American interest, or that's a Trump interest in particular, and it's short term. In other words, Trump doesn't care what happens in 10 years or 20 years. What he wants to say is get the headlines. He wants to get the benefits of it immediately. In Israel, the issues are much more long term, much more significant. How stable is the Saudi regime? Is the Saudi regime with F-35s going to be a major threat? The quantitative edge, all those things that you talked about in the intro section, in the video that you clipped that you showed, those are all very, very important issues for Israel. We're almost talking in entirely parallel and different dimensions. Israel looks at it day to day. What are the Saudis going to be able to bring? Yes, the Abraham Accords, but the Abraham Accords are not an end in itself. They're a path towards changing the Middle East. So it's no longer Israel against all these Arab countries. They're no longer going to be support for the Palestinians. There's not going to be a Palestinian terrorist state. If that is not part of the agreement, then we're not going to get anywhere with this. It's just going to be a lot of talk. And I think basically that's where we are now.
Now, switching to Gaza, we've already seen alarming reports of Hamas regaining power in key areas. How concerned should Israel be about the reports we're seeing? And frankly, what are Israel's options in this situation?
Israel now controls about half of Gaza, not where most of the population is. So there is a reduced risk from Hamas compared to where we were 2 years ago. But it's not over by any means. Hamas is still in power, as we've seen. They're still controlling the population. They're controlling day-to-day events everywhere. And they also still maintain their weapons. One of the other aspects of this was when Trump came up with this 20-point peace plan, one of the key aspects was disarming Hamas. Now, turns out, not surprisingly, that nobody wants to disarm Hamas. No other country is going to do it. Only the IDF can do it. If the IDF is not in that part of Gaza, how are we going to disarm Hamas? That's really a stalemate right now. Lots of reports, lots of talks, but it's really a stalemate. And Hamas is using that to rebuild. That's extremely dangerous. So I think that as we are seeing in southern Lebanon against not just southern Lebanon, but against Hezbollah, the war is continuing and will continue at a lower level of intensity, but Israel will have to be active also in the area that it no longer controls. It's going to have to go after those Hamas capabilities piece by piece. It's a long game, not a short game. It's not going to be quick. Let's sign an agreement. We're going to disarm Hamas. We're going to create a new framework for rebuilding Gaza, and we're going to have peace in our time. This is going to be continuing, ongoing conflict, and Israel is going to have to manage that and also the American political pressure to come up with some sort of magic formula and pretend that Hamas is not really a threat. For Israelis, we know that that pretense is not at all a basis for policy.
Well, we are almost out of time, but I want to ask you quickly before I let you go. One of the things mentioned in that U.S. proposal is the path to a Palestinian state. How likely are we to see this come to fruition, and how will Israel respond to this demand?
Palestinian state's been on the table on and off for at least 20 years. We had back, I think it was in 2004, the Bush plan and the quartet that Tony Blair headed, and the Palestinian state was articulated as part of that. At one point, Prime Minister Netanyahu, early in his period in his term, one of his earlier terms, actually gave a speech at my university where he endorsed a Palestinian state and a two-state path to peace. The Palestinian state is the easy part. The path to peace doesn't really exist. Palestinian society needs to be changed from the ground up. That's going to take a long time. So it's really words we're talking about, but words that could work to Israel's detriment if we don't play the game carefully.
All right, well, I do have to let you go, but I want to thank you, Gerald Steinberg of NGO Monitor, for joining us today.
Emily, always a pleasure to talk to you. Bye.